There are two things I want to address in this video real quick. Number one, that's the Torrance County Sheriff David Frazee becoming a turncoat. That's the last video I did with James Freeman. And the second thing I want to talk about is after a man's house being broken into by the Adams County Sheriff in Ohio. So let's deal with the first thing. David Frazee. This should serve as an example and as a reminder to all of us that when a law enforcement agent, I don't care if it's, we can have law enforcement, MPs, military police. In the military, you can have just regular police chief or police officer or a sheriff or a deputy. It doesn't matter. When their lips are moving, they're probably lying. They wanted that ring of power. They got that ring of power. The sheriff is elected. Other people aren't elected. They just inherit that position. They're appointed that position or whatever. But the bottom line is they got that ring of power. And when will we learn that it's not just a clever saying? It's not just a cliche. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. David Frazee gave his word as a man that he would not arrest anybody for violating the local edict, whatever's going on there in New Mexico. I mean, they're separate from the other states because the other states have dropped the ritualistic shame muzzle mandate a long time ago. But for some reason, New Mexico, and specifically Torrance County, is sticking with this. When a guy promises, if I see somebody wearing a mask, don't worry, we're not even going to mess with you. You're not going to be arrested.
We're not going to enforce any mask mandate in the courtroom or anywhere else.
But then he turns around and he arrests that person and then says a deputy didn't arrest him when a deputy did arrest him, or this woman, for wearing a ritualistic shame muzzle. When they say that they're going to do something and they don't do it, they are a liar.
He's going to jail, buddy. She's going to jail, buddy.
For not wearing a mask?
For not wearing a mask.
You can sugarcoat it. You can put a good slant on it. You can put a positive attitude or a positive light or a positive spin on it, however you want to do it. But when you say you're going to do something and you go back on specifically what you said you were or weren't going to do, that makes you a liar. You're the one, David Frazee, that put your own reputation in the toilet, and everybody should take note. You can't trust that guy. And then how he got brazen with James Freeman as they stood face to face. Make sure you spell my name correctly.
You f***ing coward piece of shit.
My name right.
He got caught doing an evil deed. David Frazee, if you're watching this video, you got caught lying. How can you sleep at night? Well, we know how he can sleep at night. He's corrupted by power, and therefore, more than likely, he fits the description of being a psychopath. Psychopaths, they don't care. They'll run roughshod over you and sleep very well. They'll sleep like a baby at night. They don't care. So when that kind of thing happens and you unearth that and then you use your video camera like James Freeman did, and I applaud him and everybody who does that, because that is the vital component that's been missing for decades and decades and decades in this country. And with the advent of the cell phone and the fact that everybody has these, high megapixel recording devices, hey, we can put them on blast and we can show everybody what kind of person that David Frazee is and that department is. No stream can rise higher than the source. David Frazee is the source in that department. He's the sheriff, and all crap rolls downhill. That means all the deputies who continue to take their orders from that guy, knowing, because he's been exposed, that he's a liar, shows you what kind of people they are. And the next thing that I want to talk about, and it really, just before I move on with this David Frazee thing, it really gets under my skin because you really, really hope. If you don't have hope, you don't really have much. You gotta, even if it's false hope, even if it's vain hope, at least you have something to look forward to, something that might potentially materialize in the future. I was hoping, and I'm a fool for doing this because I know better. And that's what psychopaths do. They play on the natural hope of human beings. And they exploit that hope. And then, you've heard the term hopium. I can see why people can get amped up on hopium. Oh, maybe this time, Maybe this time that politician will keep their word. Maybe this time that sheriff or that law enforcement officer will actually fulfill his oath to the Constitution and protect and defend and uphold it. Maybe this time. So these psychopaths know that we have hope inside of us, and then they try to gin up the works, and then they amplify that, and it becomes hopium, and then we're the fool again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I should have known better. James Freeman already did know, but it's just like a leopard. They can't, they're incapable. It's impossible for them to change their spots. Same thing with the tyrant. He may have a nice looking mask today. It may be constitutional looking. It may be pro Second Amendment looking. It may be freedom looking, but that is always going to be the alibi of tyrants. That good looking, constitutional looking, freedom loving mask is the alibi of tyrants. It's just a matter of time. And James Freeman told me he knew this. And that's why every time he had an interaction with him, he would record David Frazee, because he didn't trust him, because he knows what happens with power. It goes straight to the innermost being of a man, and it just corrupts them from the inside and out. And they can't help that. Just like a leopard can't help. I can't change my spots. Hey, I was born with what I was born with. Just like you're born with the skin that you're born with. You can't change who you are. You can't change where you grew up. You can't change your family. You can't change your location when you're a little kid. Just like tyrants can't change the fact that they're psychopaths. James Freeman knew this, and I was hopeful. I was like, man, this David Frazee guy, look, he's not even going to enforce these mandates. This is awesome. Oh, I'm going to put my hope in David Frazee. And then the hopes are dashed again. Now moving on to Afro Man. So Afro Man, having done nothing wrong, didn't traffic drugs, wasn't involved in kidnapping or anything like that, like the warrant said. And then the Adams County Sheriff's Department comes, invades his property with a whole bunch of men with long rifles, kicks down his door, ransacks his house, goes through all of his personal things, terrorizes his child who's there with his ex-wife. And now they turn around, and because Afro Man has all this recorded inside his house in his private property using his privately funded cameras, is going to put him on blast on social media and then make a music video on it. Now the Adams County Sheriff is turning around to sue Afro Man. Let me just ask you a question, Adams County Sheriff's Department. Would you guys be wanting to sue Afro Man if, when he put out that video, it was painting you in a good light? If it was catching you in the act of doing something kind to somebody? If it was catching you in the act of, hey, fulfilling, protecting, and defending the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? Do you guys think that you'd be wanting to seek litigation against Afro Man if you guys were doing something good, if you were doing something noble, if you were doing something above board, if you were doing something right, if you were benefiting mankind? No way. But because you did wrong, and you acted like criminals, and you know you did wrong, and you know you acted like criminals, and you're embarrassed, you want him to take all that stuff down, and then you're seeking compensation from him because you're the ones who did the bad deed. You're the ones who got caught. Afro Man didn't make you come onto his property and kick down his door, ransack his house, and terrorize his family. He didn't make you do that. You did that of your own volition against your oath of office. You swore to protect Afro Man. And hey, Adams County Sheriff's Office, you would have done the same thing to me. And you would have done the same thing to everybody who's listening to the sound of my voice. And you probably are so earthworm deep in nastiness and filth, you probably would have done the same thing to your mother or your father or your wife or your children because you're that far gone. But you wouldn't want it done to you. And so that shows that you're more than willing to violate the golden rule. Do to others what you would want done to you. Conversely, don't do to others, like don't invade their property, break down their door, ransack their house, don't terrorize their kid. What you wouldn't want done to you, don't do that to other people. But you did it anyway, didn't you? And you got caught, and you know you're wrong, but you won't admit you're wrong because you're narcissistic, parasitic psychopaths. And it is perfectly within the right of Afro Man to go after you monetarily within the legal system. It's perfectly within that that frame of morality to do that, to get back what you took from him, what you stole from him. You even stole cash out of his safe. Come on, give me a break. And then he had to go through a third party to prove that the cash was his and that it was the amount that he says it was, or you wouldn't have released that last $400. You bunch of nincompoops. What is wrong with you guys? It's astounding to me that we live in a day and age where people are still doing this to other people because they have a badge on, they have a uniform, they have a gun, they have a utility belt, they come with the authority of the state. And then they said they're so immoral. I don't know what they're evil. They're so evil that they will violate their own oath where they said they would protect you, and they do the exact opposite. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. I'm constantly, taking myself through the ringer because I do have hope that somebody will get into a sheriff's position and actually work for the benefit of the people instead of to their detriment. And, you're not a bad person if you have hope. You're not a bad person if you have love and you have kindness and you have compassion. But, and I don't want to be cynical. I really don't. I don't want to get to the point where I'm so cynical that I just don't trust anybody. What kind of life is that? But then again, if you're not cynical enough, if you're not questioning enough, if you don't put, a tight rein on the hope that you have within you enough, then you're going to get taken to the cleaners. So good job, James Freeman. Good job, Afro Man, for exposing the evil of the Adams County Sheriff's Department. Good job, James Freeman, for exposing the evil that's now in the Torrance County Sheriff's Office in New Mexico. Another thing about Frazee is that when you look at his campaign promises and what he was all about getting more funding for the Sheriff's Department, more manpower, more equipment. We need to train them more, and, accidents and all this kind of stuff, and writing up accidents. He was also saying, I know how to secure funding. He was all about funding the police force. And they don't call it force for nothing. Like we've said many times on this channel, George Washington said, government is not eloquence. It's not reason. It is force. And like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. So I'm going to try to make this video short. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. And if you want to support the channel, the links are in the description, or grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design that you can get from the store. You can put it on a shirt, hoodie, mug, hat, cell phone case, whatever you want. I will see you in the next video.